board on any items of interest. Public comments on items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the board are welcome, subject to reasonable time limitations for each speaker. If you wish to address the board at this time, please state your name and lot number and reserve your comments to no more than 3 minutes so that others may be allowed to speak. No action will be taken. Each item of business will be introduced by the president, and public comment for that item will be opened. The public will have the opportunity to speak on that item. Public comment for that item will then be closed, and no additional public comment will be allowed. The board will then discuss the item and take action. So in other words, if you have something to say that's not on the agenda, now is your time. If you have something to say that is on the agenda, wait until that item comes up. So if you're ready to roll, please come up to the microphone.
Hi, my name is Sue Chome, K-J-O-M-E, lot 608. I represent a number of ladies that play tennis on the Riverview courts, and we have had a rumor that the pickleball club would like to restripe those courts so that they have 4 courts on 2 tennis courts. And we are strongly objecting to that because it would make tennis impossible. And we already have pickleball players playing alongside of us, and we work it out just quite well. No problems with them playing at the same time we are. Also, there's word out that they're trying to reserve specific times for play on courts so that they have their own time delineated to them. The tennis courts are quite clear. It's first come, first serve. The hours that someone can play or groups can play is stated on the rules by the court, and we'd like the board to adhere to those rules as presently stated.
Okay, thank you. Any further public comments? Okay. I can assure you, Sue, if we ever get to the point of restriping stuff, that will be an item on the agenda that you and your colleagues can speak to.
Thank you.
So, no action on that tonight. Okay. Are there any other public comments? Okay.
I'm not sure what's on the agenda, so I don't want to jump the gun.
Well, identify your item, please.
It's regarding motorcycles on the market.
We do have that. We do have that on our agenda, so if you can hold off on that, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, item 4 is our consent agenda, or consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered routine and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion on the items unless the director requests a specific item to be removed. The chair seeks a motion on our consent calendar.
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of passing the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Minutes on item 5. Approval of minutes from April 16th, 2019. Chair seeks a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the board meeting, April 16th, 2019.
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. The next item is our president's report, and I'm going to report out on executive session. We had a potpourri of items from legal issues, legal invoices, contracts, and heard a couple of appeals. Kept us busy in our executive session today. Also wanted to add that the presidents of the Country Club, CSD, and RMA had a meeting last week. It was good to get together and talk about some of the issues in the community. So if we get to do that again soon. General Manager's report.
The first item I have is the trial period allowing motorcycles in the north. At the last month's board meeting, the board directed me to contact legal counsel to determine if we could have a trial period for motorcycles on the north side. The attorney responded, and in his opinion, the board does not have the authority to allow motorcycles usage on the north side on a trial basis. He did, however, state that if the board were wanting to amend the CCNRs, if they did receive a petition signed by 5% of the members of good standing for... Yeah, if the board were to receive a petition signed by 5% of the members in good standing for a CCNR amendment to allow motorcycles to the north, the board would need to put the proposal to a membership vote. Passage of a CCNR amendment would require 60% of the members to vote in the affirmative.
So Greg, how many signatures is 5%?
It'd be approximately 120 to 130.
Okay.
So this is the, is this the opportunity you wanted to take to speak on motorcycles?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please. Thank you. We want to get you recorded here.
It's my first time. Yeah, my name is Josh Wheeler, lot 1259. My understanding is, because my wife has been here and spoken for, that there's a quorum, and that's 60% of the north, I believe, in order to allow or change a rule or to get a petition done, but we're not allowed to go door to door. To me, it's kind of more of an English thing, right? If we ask people on the next ballot, should we keep the existing rule? Because automatically it's a no if it's a non-vote. Is that correct? Is there a way to reword? So my understanding was last time we had a majority vote of the voters who voted to allow motorcycles on the north, but you didn't have a quorum. Is that correct?
We had quorum. Do we have a quorum?
We had a quorum, yes.
We had,
We have the, you want me to read the result? I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. And then if we can, I don't know what you guys are allowed to do as far as a fee schedule, because if you change the fee schedule, if I get caught riding my motorcycle in the north, I don't know what the fee is for that. I don't even own a motorcycle yet. I've wanted one for 10 years, but haven't purchased one because I don't want to park it up at the front parking lot. I've heard of people that have had their Harleys taken across Jackson Highway and parked in front of the store. That doesn't appeal to me, especially if I'm going to spend $14,000 on a motorcycle. I've been waiting a long time to do it. I've been working a lot of overtime in order to get it. The last thing I want is it parked up at the front near the gazebo where teenagers hang out and all that stuff. And then I have to leave my truck there when I go work 10 hours at the sheriff's department. So that just doesn't appeal to me. So I don't know if you guys can change the fee schedule if you can't change the rule if we don't get a quorum. That's my question.
Okay.
I'm done. Or I don't know how this
Great.
works if I stay up here.
Thank you.
I took the day off to be here, so it's pretty important to me. So.
Appreciate that. We actually have, just as an item here, I believe under compliance, the compliance report, we have an issue coming up regarding motorcycles as well. So I just want to also share with the public that the results of the vote, our staff did research. The last time a petition was signed by the community and we had a vote on this was back in October 2012, and voting in favor of allowing motorcycles in the north was 574, voting against was 725, and so that was, and 4 people just voted for quorum purposes. So that was the result back in 2012.
And that's a quorum of the north?
It actually, north and south vote on it.
Okay.
Can I,
And what doesn't show there is that the number that voted no is how many people actually sent in the ballot, and the remainder of the people didn't send in a ballot, so
Does that include
that
the
was
no
considered
votes
no
on-
vote. Right.
That's considered, yeah, so if we were to change the verbiage on the next ballot, should we keep the motorcycle rule? Then maybe all those people that don't vote, but don't want motorcycles will have to vote yes.
It's interesting.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, if we got the majority of the voting people last time, I think make them have to vote yes next time. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, we would have to talk to our attorney to see how we could legally word it. But
Should
sure.
we keep
Something
the
to consider.
existing motorcycle rule on the north?
Something
It
to
seems like that would be okay to do that.
Should we not keep the existing motorcycle?
No, should we keep it? Should make them vote yes.
Yeah, we'd have to check with legal counsel, to run that proposal, see if that'd be acceptable language or not.
No.
Okay, and then the second part was, I don't know what the fee schedule is as far as if I get caught riding my motorcycle. If you make it $2 or $30 a month max, you still keep the rule, and I get to ride my motorcycle, and I'll pay you guys, and you guys can make some money, and we don't have to build a new parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian Rosebrock, 759. You said the lawyer recommended, Greg, that we don't do a vote, or we don't do any type of, or was that an actual, that was,
No, the attorney
His
basically,
assessment.
the attorney responded to whether or not we could allow a trial period for motorcycles. He said we could not do that.
We
because
could
the
not?
C- Could not.
okay.
He said that if you were to want to amend the CCNRs, if the residents were wanting to put that to a vote, then they could bring a petition to the board with 5% of members signing the petitions, and that would generate a vote on the matter.
And then I want to clarify that the South voted on the motorcycle rule the last time?
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And how many votes was that again? So there's, how many, 2,500 houses, and you got how many votes?
1,300.
1303.
1303. Okay, you don't have the breakdown between the north and the south.
I
No,
don't
we
have
don't.
that. This
Okay.
research.
And then I also heard that you had a vote on loud motorcycles, saying that all motorcycles are loud. You said loud when you said motorcycles. The word came out of your mouth.
No.
Loud motorcycles. That's what you said.
Well, if I.
Maybe you said allowed.
Allowed?
Allowed.
Allowed.
I don't think there was loud in it.
Permitted.
Permitted.
Permitted, okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure, like I said, clarification, because I'm hearing
No, Had
stuff.
nothing to do with the noise.
What's that?
Had nothing to do with the noise. It was-
The noise? Well, and that's what, I keep asking that question, and I've been on Next Door Neighbor. There's over 200 responses to it, nothing negative. But again, we're going up against, as this gentleman over here said, we're going up against language. It's, how about we say we put in a vote for a proposed motorcycle change and see how they vote on that. I issued you a motorcycle proposal change. There's 9 bikes at the gazebo right now. One of them is not even operable. The handlebars are sticking up like this. Must have blown over in the wind or whatever. There's 2 Harley Davidsons, 1 wannabe Harley Davidson, 3 sport bikes, 1 BMW. It sounds like a sewing machine on wheels. And then you have another enduro bike. Noise, if noise is the issue, we have to reword that. It's not about noise. It's probably about the way people feel about motorcycles. And let's address that. Let's change the image that motorcycles aren't bad in the neighborhood. There's a lot of people that want to ride them because of the gas prices, the freedom to ride, maybe, getting around town, the commute. I went to jury duty one time, and it took me an hour and a half to get to jury duty from here in my car. The next day I got down there in 30 minutes on my motorcycle. And I got to park right up in front. Not because I wanted to be a Hell's Angel, it's because I wanted to be efficient about it. But we keep wording it about being, loud or allowed or just being a bike and being in the north, when the south doesn't have a problem at all. And I can tell you, I confess I rode out 1,000,000 times without being caught, no one cared. I got flipped off by a lady, but I'm sure she wanted to ride. I'm sorry that I blew by her, But she was an old lady and she was walking, and she probably doesn't like the motorcycles for whatever reason. But let's try to maybe word this thing where it's not about, the deviant motorcyclist, and maybe it's somebody that just wants to ride a two-wheel vehicle out of here and change the whole, the whole perspective about motorcycles. Thanks, folks.
Any further public comment? Board, any comments from the board? I would suggest you guys can force our hand and get some signatures and bring it up to vote again.
To lose?
Okay.
You want to force your hand to change?
That's still a lot, yeah.
You can't do that. You guys have to do that. I get all the signatures you want.
Okay.
How are we allowed, I'm just curious, how are we allowed to get signatures if we can't go door to door?
Solicitation is prohibited in the neighborhood.
That's right.
I don't, you can't solicit, you can't go door to door.
So you can't offer $5 for a vote, or,
And there's a lot of public gathering places, the food truck Sundays, a lot of activities at Stonehouse Park. There's a lot of places where, members of the community gather.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just, it seems like it's more efficient if I can go door to door, that way I know who I've
Sure.
gotten and who I haven't gotten.
Alex, I don't know if both of them heard that, when we get to compliance, right, it's under the compliance report, we might have an option, we might have something to offer that you might like, okay? So when we get to one of our committee reports, when we get to our committee reports, okay? All right.
Any other comments? Okay, Greg, let's move on to common area encroachments.
Okay, there are two areas on the north where cart trails have been created encroaching into the common areas. They're at the 15th hole and Second Guadalupe, Nafriano, and Playa del Rey at the Chesbro Pathway. The Maintenance Committee has reviewed these unofficial trails and are recommending that in order to avoid liability, that boulders should be used to block the access, that still be available for pedestrians and bikes, but no golf carts or cars. So the recommendation is that the board make a motion instructing staff to block the trails encroaching into the common area at Second Guadalupe in the 15th hole and off Rieno at Playa del Rey to the Chesbro Pathway.
Can I ask a quick question on this? So I frequently use the one on Reno and Playa del Rey. Is this just to prevent it from people driving, or it will still be accessible walking?
Yes, walking and if you have a mountain bike, that'd be fine. We're just trying to keep the cars and the golf carts from using it as an access point.
And it's probably more, I live on Playa del Rey, and it's utility trucks. I've seen SMUD, AT&T, I can just go down the list. And I've even seen CSD trucks.
And I've done it myself, I have to admit.
Yep.
So, the problem is if you drive down that paved road and then you get to the roadblock, either you have to try to turn around, which is, a 6-point turn, or back up, 200 yards, or you cut up through that dirt, so.
Yeah, I kind of got a good view on where people drive, and that'd be, Rod even walked it about 6 months ago. He said, a lot of erosion there. We need to do something about it. So it's,
So when you say block it, are you just going to put, kind of like at the other end of Chesbro, you're just going to put posts up there to block people?
Actually, we're going to put boulders so that will be wide enough to get if somebody wants to try to get a stroller through, they'll be wide enough to do that, or
Okay.
if they want to walk
All right.
through.
We need board action on this. Okay, so Chair seeks a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the blockage that's in the two encroaching common areas, the 15th hole at Second Guadalupe and off Reno and Playa del Rey.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'll give that one to Tom.
Thanks.
Gee, thanks.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving the two common area encroachment issues as Greg lined out, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the next item is the Marietta Gardens development. Over the past month, I've had several board members approach me wanting to expand a little bit upon what the conditions are for the gardens. As you know, last month, or was it 2 months ago, we sent a letter to the realtors letting them know that they do not have access through the gates at Rancho Marietta. But I would like to expand upon that a little bit because the county does have conditions of approval for Marietta Gardens that requires that they work with RMA to annex their development to the RMA. Annex of the gardens would bring management of the gardens under RMA, and the gardens would pay park development fees in the RMA monthly assessments. If the gardens required more extensive services that the traditional RMA home receives, a separate cost center would be set up. So say they wanted to include front yard landscaping for all their units, then you would have a separate cost center that would be paid to RMA for those services. The county has stated that if no agreement can be reached between the parties prior to the first close of escrow, the county will not issue that occupancy permit. And so far we've had very little I guess the only response we really have had from Rancho North on that development is that they don't think our CCNRs are up to date enough to where they get annexed to the RMA. And our attorney disagrees with that comment and feels that there's no problem with our governing documents and that the gardens could easily fit into our governing documents through annexation, if that makes sense. But that's the only reason we've heard that they don't want to pursue annexation is because of the age of our governing documents. Do you have any questions?
And what kind of vote, just for public edification, what kind of vote would be required?
It would
assuming
be
they applied for annexation, what would?
It would be the 60% requirement, the approval, yeah.
Okay.
So it's a stiff one to get.
And when did you get this opinion verbally, or do you have a letter in writing that from the county?
Actually, when we had our session, our board training session with the attorney, we had that discussion, and that's when he gave us that explanation.
I mean, from the county.
Oh, from the county. It was a phone conversation, and I'm trying to think if she followed up with an email or not. We are going to be meeting with the county later this month, and that's going to be one of the topics that we address again with them.
Yeah, I'd like to make sure we have something in writing
Yeah.
from the county stating
And
such.
I believe it was in an email. I'll have to go back and check.
So Rancho, just to clarify, Rancho North has not come forward and said, hey, let's find a way to.
No, they have not. I mean, we've approached the subject with them, and basically my comment to them was we just want to know what their intentions are. Can you at least, do you plan not trying to come in at all? Do you try to fight the access agreement, or are you planning on annexing? Just what is your plan? And they really won't respond to that.
And then I see Alessa just like, also, the gardens at this point, the Marietta Gardens, have no access into the
Correct.
side gates.
Correct.
Makes that clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Les Clark, lot 1705. I believe the written comments that you are interested in seeing are actually in the officially published conditions of approval for the vesting tentative map for Marietta Gardens. And so that's not just the only condition relating to this issue. There's an alternative should there not be an agreement between the two parties. So you might want to take a look at that. That's posted online with Sacramento County Planning.
Yeah, we have read those, but in the conditions of approval, it said at time of map approval that was to occur. Map approvals happen.
Yes.
And so, that condition was not followed through on by the county.
That was the
And
alternative.
so their fix-it was to say that since we've missed that trigger of final map approval, now we're going to say the first close of escrow.
Right, that's in the conditions of approval as well. So.
Thank you. Any further board comment? Questions? Okay, Greg, thanks for the update there. You want to talk to us about disc golf course?
It's open.
Yeah. Have you set the course record yet?
No, next week I'll be out there playing, I'm sure. But no, it's a pretty cool course. Encourage everybody to get out and play a few rounds of disc golf course. I've been told I can't call it frisbee golf course. And possibly later in the summer or something, Charlie Callahan, the course designer, would be willing to come out and give a workshop to explain the game and show people how to play it and give them the nuances of the game. And so Charlie is more than welcome to come out and do that at no charge to the association. He just loves the game and wants to promote it.
Cool. I'm hearing maybe a disc tournament on the rec committee.
This is random, but I thought were they frisbees or are they discs? Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah.
Available from here for people to borrow, or
No,
people have to have their own?
No, you'd have to go out and buy your own. I mean, it's actually a set of like 10 of them, I think.
That you purchase when you get them?
I'm sorry, per
You
person.
get 10 of them?
Yeah. So they're all different sizes. So it's like, a 7 club, you've got a 7 disc, I guess. And so you've got different size frisbees for different types of shots.
Do they have a beverage wagon out there?
You have a beverage cart?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah, they do.
Okay, good.
Get a few pair of Birkenstocks,
Volunteers.
man.
Okay, next item is completion of the resod project at Stonehouse Park. The board has budgeted $53,000 for resodding the third and final phase of the resodding project at Stonehouse Park. We went out to bid on March 27th to 3 bidders. I've got 2 bids returned. The low bid is Delta Bluegrass. It's a little bit shy of $53,000 to do 87,000 square feet of sod. So the recommendation is that the board approve a not to exceed amount of $53,000 for the Phase 3 residing project at Stonehouse Park. If the bid's approved tonight, I'm hoping to get the project started around July 1st.
Okay, and you are in need of board action. Chair seeks a,
I'll make a motion to approve the not-to-exceed amount of $53,000 for the Phase 3 residing project at Stonehouse Park.
I'll second it.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of continuation of residing project Phase 3, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. General manager report complete. Thank you, sir. Let's move on to committees. Committee action. We're going to start off with our finance committee. Cheryl?
Okay, the Finance Committee met on May 16th, and we had a very full agenda. We had a lot of things that needed to be approved. So the first thing we did was approve the minutes, and the next thing that we had a lot of items from Rod Hart. We had tractor replacement, flail mowers replacement, and we're going to have to vote on those. So those are going to be recommendations, stucco wall repairs, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking you through these recommendations. Oops.
Just, if you can just do the fireworks and we'll do the rest of it.
You want to do the fireworks? Okay. They're not even here.
I think the board and anyone who has a packet from the fireworks is sitting in the recreation committee
Is it?
part of
Okay.
your binder, and
All right.
it didn't go to recreation, so it's in the
Right.
place.
Okay,
Oh, here it is.
so, we're going to go find that.
You want these cans?
I got it. Yeah, go ahead.
We've got a contract,
No, you were talking to the right side.
oh, it was, okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
We have a contract from Pyro Spectaculars in the amount of $15,500 to provide fireworks for the fireworks show this year. We've used them for many, many, many years, and they're very, very safe and have always treated us really well price-wise and just do a magnificent job. So we'd like approval for that contract.
Okay, and the finance committee had approved that, Cheryl, is that correct?
right.
Okay. So you want to move then?
Yeah, I'll make a motion then that we approve the fireworks contract for the coming year.
And what was the total again on that?
$15,500.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, it's the fireworks display here has a countywide reputation, so I appreciate the work you guys do on it. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the fireworks for 2019, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We will have fireworks. Anything else out of finance?
Yeah, right. So when do you want to have all these? Under maintenance, okay, great. Okay, so let's see. I'll just make sure I cover the things that were talked about. We had some recommendations come in for National Night Out. Do I say that for recreation?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we covered all the areas that we're going to be asking for recommendations on, and it was a very lengthy meeting, but we got everything done. So I'll pass it on to my fellow board members to get the things approved.
Okay, that concludes your report.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Architectural Review Committee, Jim.
Okay, in architectural review, we had 2 meetings this last month. On Thursday, April 18th, we reviewed some landscaping issues, exterior colors, and a swimming pool issue. Pardon me. May 2nd. And back to May 2nd, we dealt with a banner request on Cars and Coffee, driveway parking variances, and a couple common area leases. And also a Certainty Grand Manor roof. We also have some board action that needs to be taken. For common area lease amendment for lot number 165. I'd like to make a motion to approve the approval of the proposed common area lease amendment for lot 165 for ornamental metal fence and decking and some additional landscaping.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? It's always important for me to see, because we get feedback from the community, the neighbors send us written feedback. And I always like to see if anyone in the neighborhood objected. And I see no one objected in the neighborhood.
No, that is correct. We had 13 comments, or at least 13 lots could have made comments. None of them objected, so it was good.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, so all in favor of approving the common area lease for lot 165, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You got more for us?
Got another one. We have another common area lease amendment, lot 2003. I'm making a motion to recommend the approval of the proposed common area lease amendment for lot 2003 for plans that include new wood trellis shade structure, existing wood deck with ornamental metal rail, and vision panels, concrete spa pad, and privacy wall.
Okay.
And no objections on this one either.
Is there any, I need a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Joanne. Any further discussion? Mark, I want to thank you for all the photos you send us. It's great to see all this, see all the work that is getting done there. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving common area lease lot number 2003, say aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
And one other board action, we've got a common area lease, change of ownership. I recommend the approval of the existing common area leases for lot 1561 and 1970.
Okay, and your motion is going to include both those?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, so all in favor of common area leases changing of ownership for lots 1561 and 1970, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
That's all for the art committee.
Thank you. How about communications?
We didn't meet as a committee, but Stephanie might have an update on the Facebook page and website.
Yes, Facebook. What do you got?
Yeah, so we launched the Facebook page, I think about maybe 3.5 weeks ago. We have, so far, last I checked, about 225 registered people that have liked the page so far. And we've also increased our website users who are registered by about 65 or so since we've started this. We still have a raffle that we need to complete, and I still think we can do some more pushes to get people registered on the website and whatnot. But I think it's been effective, and I think that amount of users within a month's time period is pretty good.
How's it going for staff on Facebook? Is everything okay? Cheesecake? All right. And real quick communication, I do have a question. Mr. Powers from Greenfield said he might want to hold, when he was here a couple months ago, he said he might want to hold a little workshop on cutting the cord. Is that something that we might be able to do?
We can ask him. I don't know what his schedule is. I think that was a lot of his original presentation, but certainly we can throw that out to him and see if he would be willing to come down here and do that, a workshop,
Okay,
something like that.
awesome.
Is that what you had in mind?
I did have that in mind.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
you're welcome.
Community survey working group.
The board, at the April 16th board meeting, the board appointed myself and Tom to work on a community survey working group, and we found 3 members from the community that we think will be a great asset on that project, and so we really appreciate their offer to serve on the working group, and the names are Scott Adams, Ernie Cowles, and Linda Klein. So
You're making a motion for us to approve?
I am.
And I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion? God bless those people for helping out. Okay, all in favor of adding these 3 folks to the committee, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. How about compliance?
The Compliance Committee met on May 7th and reviewed violations and heard appeals. The committee also made recommendation to the board to consider allowing additional motorcycle escorts for residents that live in the north. Currently, there's 2 escorts per lot per year allowed. The committee has checked with the security chief, and he's willing to accommodate up to 12 escorts per lot per year. So we're running that around.
Okay,
And that's it?
is that an official motion?
Yes.
Okay, so you're moving for us to approve this 12 escorts?
Yes.
Okay, gentlemen, we need a second.
I'll second it.
All right, before we have any further discussion, it looks like we're going to have public comments.
759, 12 escorts, that's 6 up, 6 down? Do you know?
I think 12, 1 in, 12 in? Yeah, it's probably 6 and 6, yes.
6 and 6. Okay, so you went up 4, yeah. Well,
There was 2 before.
What's that?
There was 2 before, wasn't there, or 4?
I was never under a limit for the 10 years I've lived here. I've got a motor escort all the time, and then all of a sudden, I stopped getting escorts for whatever reason. I talked to the chief because my motorcycle had been moved, and then they escorted me every time. Coming in is a little bit rough, because when you're riding in the summertime, your bike's overheating, you're sitting out there waiting like, you know, like the common criminals. People drive by and they stare at you on your bike like, what are you doing in this neighborhood? And I sit there and the bike just gets super hot. You ride a Harley, that thing locks up like crazy, okay? I wait between 5 to 25 minutes just to come in to go home for the escort. So it's not even a service for you guys to escort me back. But now you're gonna tell me you're gonna only offer me 6 and 6?
I think it's considerable from where it's been before.
Do you know, or is
Well,
it
no,
6
when I
and
live-
6, or is it 12? I mean, I just want to get clarification. I'd love to see it be 12, because that'd be realistic. That sounds like a change.
I think what the committee discussed was
It was 12, right?
12 per year. Maybe they're all in, and you trailer it out. I mean, I don't think they specified how that was to work, leaving it up to that individual. I mean, that was, can always say.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further public comments?
With the escorts, is there a way to, again, with the verbiage, where we just ride up to the gate and let them know that we're gonna be going home, and we can call the gate, let them know we're home?
Well, when I used to get an escort, or call and get an escort, I never had a problem. I'd call them and they would escort me in and out. Sometimes I'd have to wait 15, 20 minutes to half an hour, but then I bought a trailer so I could move mine in and out anytime I wanted.
Yeah.
And I kept my trailer down at the parking lot and had no issues with it.
Yeah, and that's fine. I want a motorcycle for work and ease of riding out of my garage to work. And
I rode mine to work every day.
Yeah, and you trailered it every
Yeah.
day?
I had a Kendon trailer. It was very easy to load it and unload it. Sometimes I'd leave it overnight because I was too tired to load it back up, but I didn't have any issues with it.
Okay. Well, I'd prefer not to have to trailer it every day, to be
Sure.
honest with you. So I don't know. I just, I understand that the issue is the rule itself. Maybe people don't really have necessarily an issue with motorcycles or the people that ride them, but it's the issue of the rule being changed. So if you guys could just reevaluate the phrasing, like I said, maybe on the next ballot, whether we're going to vote to keep the rule. So the people that oppose it have to vote yes. I would appreciate you guys at least taking that into consideration. I don't know
Okay.
how that works from here.
Can we get clarification on the escorts where we prefer it to be 12 round trip, if we need to phrase it that way, 12 round trip. I think that sounds like it.
I think that would work.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to move the needle on this thing. We're trying to move the needle on this thing, and this could be, I know it's a baby step, right? It's a baby step, but if we have 12 escorts, round trip escorts a year, now we do have motorcycles coming in and out consistently, and there's not a huge complaint, or people see that it's not a big deal, then maybe we can move the needle a little bit more when it comes time to put something on the ballot. We can look into the wording.
Sure.
So it's at least neutral and not derogatory towards motorcycles. I don't think anybody wants that, or that's not how we want to word it, but we can make sure it's at least neutral on the ballot.
Yeah, I don't think this is adversarial, to be honest. I think what my issue is what the quorum, the people that don't vote, it counts as a no. I just think if people really don't want the motorcycles in here, make them vote yes, to eliminate the rule. And I'm just asking for that consideration, if that's a possibility. And then, I don't know what the fee schedule is for breaking the rule, if I do ride to my house, because I wait. I get off work
work for the
at
sheriff's department? Is that what you said? Just
Yeah, some of the best cops, never mind.
No, that's all good.
Yeah, I'm actually a sergeant with the sheriff's department out of the East Division near Rancho. And I get off work at 11:30, sometimes 4 in the morning, and I really don't want to wait for an escort to ride home because I'm tired. And I don't want to have to trailer my bike at 4 in the morning when I've worked a 16-hour day.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Now, granted, I only have 3 more years and I get to retire. And then I can trailer it and it's easy, and I just go enjoy riding. But up until then, I honestly thought the rule would have changed by now in the 9 years I've lived here, because it almost, no offense, seems un-American to tell me what I can and can't drive to my house. It seems kind of weird to me, and I'd hope that the rule would change by now. So that's where I'm at with it. But I think you guys are trying to make an effort to move the needle, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further public comment on this item? Okay, so, I'm sorry, do we have a motion, and do we have a second?
I second
Did
it.
you second? Okay, thank you. So any further discussion from the board on the item of 12 escorts?
Just for clarification, is the motion for 12 round trip escorts?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's 12 round trip, and that's how you feel like the committee, that was the spirit of the committee?
Yeah. Don't you think too, Denise?
I thought that.
It was the spirit, yeah, I think it was 12 round trips, I think.
Well, if
Well,
you
let's-
go in,
I mean, I think that's fair.
Let's pass it and see what CSD
24
says.
Yeah.
one-ways?
Yeah.
If
If
we
you-
have 24 one-ways?
I
No.
think that would be 24 one way.
Hey, turn the mic off, Les is coming up, turn it off. CSD
That
spy.
would be 24 one way.
Les Clark, Lot 1705. There will be a CSD Security Committee meeting on Friday at 9 o'clock. That issue can be raised. I am on the Security Committee, so I will take that up, and Denise is always welcome, so. I don't know anything about this issue, so I don't know whether Chief meant 12 senior, but I can tell you this. Because of the separation in time, in and out, it is an impact on security resources. And currently, security in this community is underfunded by 40% because it's a special, it's an ad valorem special tax, all right? And we can only raise that tax by 2% a year. So what we've been doing is transferring money from other property taxes that are received from the county into the security department in order to run it. So we're severely impacted now, and 12 calls in and out. would increase it. So those are facts. So I'll bring it up at security committee meeting. We can,
I did have a conversation with Chief Warbler prior to the committee discussing it.
okay, I just don't know whether it's 12 total or 12 in or 6 in and 6 out. And so that's,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is, one way or the other, it's either half or double the impact.
Looking
So,
back at my notes, it was 6 in and 6 out, 12 total. And that's what the.
6 in and 6
That's what we
out.
all talked about. And
Okay, all right.
that's a lot more than what was there before, so we thought it would be
And
pretty
I
fair.
understand that, but I heard the motion as 12 round trips.
Correct.
And so that's inconsistent with,
You can amend your motion, right?
Yes, we can amend it.
Or you can withdraw it.
Okay.
If it's 12 round trips, then that basically means,
24 in and out.
well, if they choose to split it,
Yeah.
yeah. If it's 12 round trips, it's just 12 times.
Right, 6 in or 6 out, or
Yeah.
12 total. And that's what we discussed, remember? Okay. So let's go for that.
Well, we have a
Let's-
motion on the,
Let's change the motion to 6 in or 6 out or 12 total per month, per year, per lot,
okay.
instead of,
Is everyone
12.
okay with that amendment? We're going 6 in and 6 out instead of 12 round trip, is that okay?
I'd like to see 12 round trip. I don't know how impactful that's gonna be for,
Actually, I think you should say 12 total, not say 6 in and 6 out, because if somebody wants to trailer out 12 times and be escorted back in 12 times,
right,
that'd
Yeah.
make more sense than saying
That's why
they
we
can only
said
do
12
6 and
total.
6. Yeah.
12.
thank you.
Well, we can start with 12 total and see what kind of impact that has on security, maybe?
okay, and then maybe we can, say, at the end of the summer, we can revisit and see what the impact was, see how many escorts they actually did, and if it was impactful. If it wasn't, then we can bump it up then.
Do we have any idea right now how many people are getting escorts a month? Any idea?
Well, if they're only allowed 2, I would imagine that
Well,
not very many people are.
Sounds like from the gentleman that just talked, that he said he never kept track of it, he just got him when he needed him. So I
Well,
don't
the
know.
other gentleman said that he was denied.
They do? Okay. But I don't know how many people there are, that's what I meant. Okay, if they only get 2, they get 2 a year, 2 a month, what?
2
2 a year.
2 a
2 a
year.
year?
2 a
That's
year.
not very many.
That's not many.
You know, so.
And the most amount of motorcycles I've seen in the lot is upwards of 20. So you're not, and now it's kind of low for how many bikes are actually being parked down there.
Yeah.
But I think that's something we probably need to look at, is how many people are actually getting,
Using it, yeah.
are using it, because, maybe there is room for more escorts, because, I really don't like them down at the gazebo for a number of reasons. I think they'd be better off in garages even for the owners. If you could just escort them out and then they could come back. I know you can't do that daily, but,
Maybe be a good idea to withdraw this, look into it next month and talk about it and find out how many escorts are actually done, and revisit this next month.
Who made the original motion?
I did.
Oh, okay, so then you're gonna withdraw it.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
withdraw.
Let's do that, let's get a little more information.
Motion is withdrawn. Does anyone else want to come forward with an alternative, or are we?
Just like to request we get a little more information.
Yeah, I'd like to get some more feedback from CSD.
Okay, so we'd like to, so we can direct staff to get some stats from CSD as far as how many escorts that CSD is doing, and bring that back to us, and then we can decide on a number then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then his meeting will be done, and maybe they'll have a number for us.
yeah, but again, that will be a security committee meeting, and any action would have to go to the board, I think. All right, we'd have to check on that. Can I suggest an alternative, and that is to explore whether or not an RMA compliance officer might also include escorts? And I don't know whether that's consistent with the CCNRs and the agreements with the CSD, but it would lessen the impact on CSD patrols.
Okay, thanks, Les. That's something that you guys would need to look at in the committee then. Any further,
Yeah.
any further discussion?
Yeah. I think we need to find a solution more than the 2 times a year.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yep.
And I do want to add, Rob, I agree 100%. We're trying to move the needle here a little bit. We're trying to be flexible. We're trying to look at all the different options that we have to accommodate all the people in the community, because there are people opposed to the motorcycle for whatever reason they have, and we're trying to balance that and try to make something that you know that we can manage. So. So I appreciate you guys bearing with us. And
One more thing, I promise.
No,
Since I
that's
work for
fine.
the sheriff's department, we talked about compliance, escorting. Can I escort myself?
Hey, don't you guys have motorcycles?
What's that?
Don't you guys have scooters?
Scooters?
Yeah, can't you ride for your department?
You can. Well, Rancho has a motor detail, but
Then if you got on a bike, you can ride in and out.
I'll slap a sticker on that thing.
There you go.
I think I saw some on eBay.
do you,
I have a whole stack of them. You may find them all over the place.
the question for staff, do emergency vehicles have a different threshold, or?
They do, they can come and go, yes. So we do have law enforcement that have issued bikes that they come in and out. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna direct staff to gather more information and bring this back. This issue's not over with? We'll continue to look at it.
I have a question before we move on from compliance. Where are we at with the new radar trailers?
The what?
It's
Radar trailers?
supposed to be here at the end of the month.
Okay.
So that's the
We've been
delivery
here.
date they gave us, so.
Okay.
Okay, does that conclude the compliance report?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And actually, I'll just add, my understanding is they have been completed, they're just going through the quality control check right now.
Okay, this is one of the moments I've been waiting for this evening. Governing doc has something to report.
Governing
Oh
docs.
my gosh, you had a meeting?
We did. We met on May 8th, and it was to review the proposed recreation committee rules. And the governing docs committee is made up of 4 people that are well versed in the governing docs and myself. So it's nice to have those people as committee members. Basically, the feeling of the document was that it was restrictive. There was things that went against the bylaws, the civil code, a lot of stuff that I can't articulate very well. So Scott Adams, who was one of my committee members, he was there, and I'd like to ask him to come to the podium and he can probably articulate some of those things that we discussed better than I can.
Yeah, Scott Adams, Lot 658, thank you for your service. So this document has a lot of problems. To begin with, it's got 3 or 4 provisions that violate California law, specifically Corporations Code 7212, and also Article 10, Section 2 of the bylaws. And the reason why it violates those rules is because there are provisions in it, such as the term limits, the automatic removal provision, priority of seats, committees choosing members, where the document attempts to usurp the authority, the non-delegable authority from the board. These rules basically say that only the board can choose, add, remove committee members. And there's a reason for that, and the reason why it's in the law. We start up by telling you that you are fiduciaries to the corporation. The corporation is RMA. It's not to the membership. You don't, I heard that somebody said one time, you work for me. You don't work for me. You technically work for the corporation. And the law recognizes that. And because of that, there are certain rules in the law that say only the board can make certain decisions. And one of those is committee members. Why is that? Because committee members are advisors. That's all they are. They're advisors to the board. And the other reason is transparency. Only only the board is required to give notice for meetings You're required to vote only on agenda items. Committees don't have those requirements. So committees serve as advisors to the board. The other issue that I have with this is that it seemed when I read the document, there's kind of a lack of understanding of how the corporation works and the political relationship between RMA and committees and the board. I look at some of the rules. The very first sentence is it talks about the committee's purpose to offer events. That's not the committee's purpose. The current charter, the way it reads, is what the committee's purpose is. The committee's purpose is to vote on, consider, and maybe price events, but they have to come to the board for that approval. I look at that applications must be received in December. I mean, I don't like that rule. I don't think it's a pro-volunteer rule. I think the voting packet at RMA goes out in October, and I think the voting is in November. So they're going to be people like me. I'm on governing docs. I've been on governing docs for a long time. I apply in usually the end of October when I vote. I try to vote right when I get the ballot in the mail. The last thing is there are a lot of provisions in here that are just basically unnecessary. I mean, there's a code of conduct in here. We already have a committee code of conduct. That's a very good committee code of conduct. We already have committee charters. It's a good committee charter. It's written years ago. We already have reference to the bylaws to Robert's Rule of Order. It's in Article 13 of the bylaws. And finally, the last point I want to make is these rules are non-binding on future committees. If you were to pass this, if you were to vote yes on this, you're essentially voting for something where you're going to tell a board in 2025 that they can't put a committee member on because the committee members serve for 6 years. I mean, committees serve a really, really important purpose, including the Recs Committee. But they cannot take any power or authority away from you as the board, who are fiduciaries to the corporation. Thanks.
Scott, are you open for I don't know if the board has any questions. Board, do you have any questions? Because I have a question real quick. Thank you for staying up there for a second. Is there some, thanks for your feedback, by the way. Is there something that can be done to address like a quorum issue? If someone isn't showing up to a committee,
right,
and it's impacting quorum issues, is there something that can be addressed?
Yeah, let me find that, because I've analyzed every sentence of this. Let's see, where is that? Oh, it's section 2, subsection D. If a voting member misses more than 3 meetings annually, this seat will then be replaced with an alternate from the committee. The chair can always come back to the board and say, I've got a member that's not making the meetings.
Okay.
And the board, remember, the board can add committee members anytime for any reason or no reason at all. But the chair can always make recommendations. Sometimes, I've been on committees for a long time, for, 12, 13, 14 years. And I've never had some of the problems that I see in this document with various committees. I've been on ad hoc committees and everything. So sometimes when people miss those meetings, let's say that you have 12 or 14 meetings in a year. Somebody missing 3 meetings, it might not be in the best interest of the association to have that, what if a person goes on vacation or they have a death in the family? That may not be in the best interest of the association to kick that person off the committee. But it's certainly up to the board. You can do that if you want.
Okay. Any further questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Sure. So as you can tell, so people that know much more about governing docs than I do. But what it came back to is the process that we went through. As auspicious as it was at the beginning of the year, that's how it's supposed to work. The committee members come with a slate of. The chair comes to the board with a slate of members that they want to put on. And then the board can approve, disapprove, remove, add if they want. It's up to the chair to make an argument as to why they put people on or left them off, and then it's the board to accept or. So, again, it leaves a lot of freedom for the chair, and it leaves a lot of freedom for the board without boxing them in, without boxing in future boards as to how we pick committee members.
Can I make a few comments?
Of course.
So obviously this came out of my committee and was submitted to the governing docs. I appreciate the people on the governing docs committee taking the time to review the document. My first concern, and I take ownership in the fact that I did not seek out to be in attendance at this meeting, but I would have appreciated an invitation to be present when this document was being reviewed, since it did come from my committee, and I could have provided clarification on it. The purpose, it seems the committee did have questions in regards to the intent of the document. And if I can just clarify for the board, the intent of the document. The intent of the document was really to try and see that there was a problem earlier in the year in how the committee selection process went forward, what some of the concerns were, and some concerns that have been expressed to me personally and to other, I believe, board members as to how the committee selection process goes. Concerns that volunteers for various committees, do not hear back when they do volunteer from committees as to if they've been selected or not selected, or thank you for offering or your service or whatnot. And other people who volunteer year after year and potentially are never placed on a committee. So really what the intent of the document was to prevent future concerns going forward with how committee members are selected, give some structure to that process so that it made sense and we could point to this structure or these rules going forward. So that was really the intent of it. It was not to further an agenda. It was not to serve my own purpose. It was really just to have some structure to the process and to make it fair for all community members who in the future step forward to volunteer, whether it's just a simple thank you, we appreciate you offering, but our committee is maxed at 11, or whatever the case may be. My second concern with all of this, and I appreciate the legal aspect of it because I by no means am an attorney, and so I don't profess to understand, the corporation code, civil codes, and whatnot. I guess my hope with putting this document forward is not understanding that is coming back from the governing docs committee. What I would have liked to have seen would have been recommendations as to what is allowable, what can we do, what structure can we provide. Can we, as a recreation committee, have some sort of limitation to the numbers? My concern is, say we have 20 volunteers on the recreation committee. In order to have a quorum, that would be 11 people. That's very challenging to have that many members present. If we have people who I'm appreciative of the history of people coming to the recreation committee, and I'm just picking on the recreation committee because that's my committee. If we have people who've sat on the committee for 20 years, but there's new people that want to volunteer, when do those new volunteers then get a chance to sit on the recreation committee? So it was really to look at some of these issues, and within our legal aspect, how do we then say to the community, this is how we pick our committee members, as opposed to it being haphazard or random or political or whatever the case may be. My 2 cents.
Well, I think Rob, what I heard today is that we have, the process is that the chair makes a recommendation.
Correct.
And that recommendation comes to the board, and it's the board's fiduciary responsibility to approve or disapprove that slate based on what reasons come forward. And it's my impression that we're accepting after kind of some of the bumps in the road here. I think my idea is we're accepting people to come in. Let's have more the merrier, right? I mean, so
yeah, it can be up to it's up to the chair to articulate why and how they selected the members they did. If you feel, if a chair feels that a quorum of 11 is just not workable, then you can articulate that at the time that your slate comes up. Hey, we need a slate of this because this is what is manageable for us and what we think we can have, why we can have a quorum at every meeting. If there's some people that were not chosen, then we can articulate why we didn't put these people on. They signed up last time, they missed 5 meetings, or they didn't attend any events, and you can articulate why a person was not selected for the committee, and bring that to the board, and then that's how the board approves or disapproves the slate. So you have a lot of freedom in your committee to pick your committee members. You just have to articulate to the board how and why you did that, and then as long as it's reasonable, I don't see the board having an issue.
So potentially, and I'm not trying to be contrary on this, but if you take our most recent example this last time, me and the co-director, or co-chair, I'm sorry, at the time, presented a slate of what we thought was a manageable committee. Of course, that, as everybody knows, was overturned by the board, and we felt as co-chairs, rationales for our decisions. Some of that information that we discussed was not appropriate to discuss in public, in my opinion. It's tough, because our recommendations as co-chairs towards the board was then overturned, even though we felt we were, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess fortunately, this is all open session stuff, so we have to cover it.
Just
there.
one follow-up comment. I watched that board meeting. How that went is exactly how it should go. Exactly. You nominated certain people. The board felt that some other people should have been on the board. That's exactly how it went. The board controlled who goes on the committee or don't. I appreciate your concerns, but 11 may be unmanageable. Maybe you want a smaller committee. I would never pigeonhole myself into an 11-member committee, which is in this document. Never. You guys may think 13 is good, or you may think 7 is good. The current charter says more than 5. But how that went, I realize you weren't happy. That's exactly how it should have gone.
But it's not about me being happy, and that's not my concern. My concern is I'm not going, I don't know. Okay.
Any further discussion?
One question for you, Scott. I believe you said that the director or the board, they could either give a reason why a person is selected or not selected. I mean, or they could just say thank you and leave it at that.
Or no reason at all. The board has complete control who goes on a committee and who can be who's removed from a committee. Complete control, because they're advisors only. Do they have to give a reason? No. You could vote yes or no on it. No, of course you don't have to give a reason.
Okay.
You know, some of our committees do have caps on them, and others don't. And I'm not exactly sure why that is. Do they have any? It's in the bylaws, I know. I mean, can't a committee decide that, how many people they want to be on there and to work with?
There's people last time, I swear.
Yeah.
No, that's
Okay.
okay.
And the governing docs, I like reading my governing docs, so I mean, that's a weird thing. So the governing docs there are certain, and this is it's in the civil code as well. The governing docs have certain committees. There are standing committees of the board.
Right.
There are committees that are required by the governing docs. But me being on governing docs, I'm on a committee that's been formed by the board. It's not a required committee. Same with rec committee.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look, the answers, you'd be surprised how much information is in those governing docs. And that tells you, some of them name the number of
Right.
members.
Right.
But the charters are really good. The current charter on all the committee charters, it's a really good document. For a rec, it's a minimum of 5. So, and I think that's totally appropriate, because you guys can choose more and whatever number that you like, so. I swear that's the last time.
And then if you have, more members, or committee residents who want to be on the committee and you don't have room for them, you know, you have enough activities that you could let them share in some of those.
Well, and that was really our intent initially, when there was a co-chair with the committee, was to have people designated as voting members, but allow everybody to be a volunteer with the committee once we were above that initial 9 approved voting members, was the intent initially. And, you know, really, this was not, what happened with the board had nothing to do with, you know, me not being happy about the decision or the board going against what our recommendation was. It had everything to do with, you know, me personally. I'm never going to sit up here and talk about individual community members to the board or in front of the board or in front of the, it's just, it's not inappropriate. So to expect, I don't know on some of these decisions how you rationally have those conversations, or I
Yeah, and we're limited to what we can discuss in executive session.
understood.
Okay, any further discussion?
I've got a question for Scott. He's just got me thinking. So our charter was established, let's just say, 1980?
No, you're talking about the committee charters?
Yes.
They've taken on different forms. I think the last one was a while ago. It was, it's in the mid-2000s. I have it if you want the exact date, but it was a while ago. It's an older charter. But I mean, it's a good charter. That's why it's been around for a long time.
So it's a living document.
Of course, you guys can change charters. The board can update charters as long as you're not violating the law or otherwise the governing docs. It definitely is a living document.
Just like the governing docs, that's a living document, just like our CC&Rs. That's something.
Well, okay. So the CC&Rs,
How's that work?
they require, there are certain documents that the board can vote by a majority and update.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the CC&Rs and the bylaws. We were talking about it with the motorcycle. So those require majority votes. I think the bylaws are 60%.
Right.
So in California law, it's a civil code, I can't remember it, I've got it down there. The law lays out the priority of documents. And the first documents up are the CC&Rs. The CC&Rs are the rules for all the members. The next document up is the bylaws. California law, of course, is on top of all that. The next document up is the bylaws. And then you have the other documents that the board passes. You guys, there are a lot of documents that the board has approved.
And the Davis-Sterling Act has an overall impact on how we operate everything.
That's the count.
Yeah, that's the homeowners association law. Yeah.
So with the law that we have, how can, and we're always updating things, how can things become antiquated?
Well, you can update the CC&Rs and you can update the bylaws, but you're going to have to get the community to vote for it. There are certain internal documents. Like I say, the board runs the committee, so the board would be in charge of the charters for the committees. I mean, you could technically, if you wanted, you could say there have to be 11 members on the rec committee. You could do that. That's not a violation of the law. That's up to the board to say that. I wouldn't do it. I think it's not a good idea. But I don't know if I'm answering your question, but.
Okay.
So, Rob, are you basically recommending this not be,
Can I make a recommendation?
just not be
Yeah.
considered?
Yeah,
Just
I
not be
think we're ready.
considered.
We're ready, we're ready.
The Governing Docs Committee recommends that the board reject the entitled document in its entirety because it violates state law and RMA's governing documents and/or does not align with the practices and procedures of RMA.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
Again, I would just appreciate if it's appropriate, if the governing documents committee would reevaluate the charters to prevent, you know, problems like we recently encountered. I'm, you know, honestly, I'm concerned complacency and doing nothing is the possibility for repetition in the future.
Repetition of what? That you would get your slate voted down?
What took place before, that that they're, just that we have nothing that we can go to the community on any committee. I'm not saying just mine, I'm saying, whether it's Jim's or yours. How do we go to the community and say, this is how people were chosen, this is how we're fair about it, this is how we rotate seats, this is, there's nothing that we can point to show that there's fairness to how the seats are filled.
Well, I think ultimately it's how it's the board decision. I mean, the committee chairs make a recommendation and the board will accept it or not. And that's how we have it.
It's 7 people voting, I think it's pretty fair.
And I think, part of that meeting was that we have people come and speak as to who wanted to be on the committee. So they make compelling arguments as to why they should be on the committee. And to me, that was one of the things that tipped the scales as to why we should put those people on. If we have people that are willing to come to the meeting, to the board meeting, and articulate why they want to be on that committee, and they can make a compelling argument as to why, that was part of it. People's interest, their time in the community, their service, those are all things that the board considers. If somebody is left off and the chair makes a compelling argument as to why a person was left off and they don't come to the committee meeting, I just don't see it being really that big of an issue. Maybe it will be, but I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was the first time we really had an issue with people being on a committee, and I don't really see it being an issue going forward. I just don't.
I don't either, and I have more concerns about the code of conduct part of this report. All of the stuff that's described there, it would be very disrupting to a committee meeting. And to me, it says, take control of the committee. If somebody's doing these kind of things, you ask them to leave. I would not put up with it in any committee I would be chairing. And I encourage you to be tough. I don't think we need to have things in writing about not using derogatory language or those kind of things. So I had concerns about that, and so I just feel like, as a committee, you can actually, probably just, Robert's Rules of Order, addresses this. You can just say these are the kind of guidelines I'm going to use as I direct this committee, and that's really all you'd need. So, I support the motion. So.
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to, we are rejecting the document in its entirety. And I see no further discussion. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
I'm going to vote no.
No.
Two no?
2 no's.
Okay. Motion carries 5-2. All right, does that conclude governing docs?
That concludes governing docs.
Joint Security Committee. Okay, we don't have anything on that. Do we have a meeting?
Nothing to report, no.
Nothing?
There's
Man,
nothing
okay.
reported.
All right.
No.
Maintenance Committee, Joanne.
Hi. The Maintenance Committee met on Monday, May 6th. We had a resident come to us, and they want to install a memorial bench around Lake Chesborough, and we voted to approve it. And, we also had a resident who came as a guest to the committee. What he wanted to do is he had played some bocce ball up at El Dorado Hills, and they had a different surface than what is normally used on bocce ball courts. Usually it's the oyster shell, and they had some kind of artificial surface, kind of like turf or grass or something. And he said it was, made the game easier to play, and he wanted us at some point to look into maybe installing a couple more bocce ball courts and looking into that kind of surface. And that's something that we're going to do some more research on and look into. I think we already talked about putting the boulders in, restricting the pathway, the trails. We had another resident come to us who needs a tree removed on Lindero Lane because the roots are invading the garage. And then the rest, we'll go over to the project list. The drain on Mar Drive is completed now, and as it went out, the disc golf course is done, so that'll be off our list next time. Currently, we've been continuing to work on the dog park south. The seeding should take place in the near future. Again, this rain, you know, the weather has been making some delays on that project. And a lot of what we're doing right now is our weed abatement program. So that's where our big focus is, as we can get that done. So now we have some recommendations for buying some new equipment.
Can I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Just in regards to the weed abatement, with all of the late rain that we're getting, I'm anticipating that the weeds would grow back even after they've been mowed. Is there any plan for that?
Yeah, oftentimes, we mow them twice a year. I mean, so it's not unusual for us to do an early mowing and then hit them again in June or early July, because often they do grow, especially the ones we got back in April. They're going to be high enough again with it to be weeded again, but it goes a lot faster because they've been cut once.
Okay. Okay, so the first thing we had is the replacement of the 2 flail mowers, which is what we use for our weed abatement. It goes on the back of our tractors. And we'd like to purchase 2 more because, you know, of their age and their effectiveness now. And so, any discussion on that? So I'll make a motion to approve $13,165.98 from reserves to purchase 2 replacement flail mowers from Valley Truck and Tractor. And it was the lowest of 3 bids.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
Okay, I'm going to go over here this time.
Okay. It's okay.
Okay, so
It's
a
okay.
motion and a second. Any further discussion on our flail mowers? And just for the public, just so you know, we do discuss these in, these are things that get discussed in executive session to contracts. So. Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the 2 flail mowers for $13,165.98, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda was to purchase a replacement tractor. So I have a motion to approve a not to exceed amount of $66,401.63 from reserves to purchase a replacement tractor for the current one we own, which is a Max 650B, and that's what actually pulls our mowers so that we can do our weed abatement.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of purchasing the tractor replacement for, that was 66,401? 0.63, not to exceed that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. And the next thing on our agenda was our asphalt and pavement repairs. We'd like to make a motion to approve $430,000 from reserves to have Central Valley Engineering and Asphalt to do the 2019 pavement repairs. This comes out of reserves, and it is the lowest of the 4 bids we received. And all the work will be done on the south.
All the way down
Marietta,
south.
yes.
Okay, and you made the motion?
I did make the
Okay,
motion.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm gonna go over here. Okay, all in favor of the asphalt pavement repairs say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0.
Okay, and the last one. So this is to repair the stucco wall on when you're exiting Rancho Murrieta South, and we were removing some redwood trees. I believe we had something on our agenda last month where we were talking about the redwood trees that are invading into the wall. So they're being removed, and we need to repair the stucco wall. So I make a motion to approve $10,000 from reserves to have Carrillo Enterprises do the needed stucco repairs on the stucco wall, on the Marietta South Parkway privacy wall, and a contingency of $3,300 included in case there's unexpected dry rot repairs.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Motion and a second on stucco repairs on Murrieta South Parkway. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving $10,000 from reserves for the stucco repairs, say aye.
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 All right, opposition? Motion carries 7-0.
Gosh, that's the end of my maintenance committee
Great.
report.
Thank you, Joanne. Let's move on, recreation, Stephanie.
So the Recreation Committee met on May 6th. We approved the minutes from our April 1st meeting. We had a presentation from Pickleball in regards to their concerns and their needs. We had a very lengthy discussion that went on after that discussion. We talked about a few different events that the committee is still working on hosting, including a self-defense class. We talked about potentially some watercraft for Lake Clementia, as well as a couple of events that are approved, which are coming up for board action in regards to a family fun night, as well as National Night Out. We discussed movie nights coming up, and community service days that we're working on. So, we're skipping that, sorry, let me skip ahead. So the first board action item, we discussed community service days that the committee's going to work on organizing, but one of the things that was discussed is that Lake Clementia during the summertime is cleaned up one Friday, or every Friday. And so the discussion was if we could keep the beach area cleaner during the summer months to allow for more use of Lake Clementia. And so the committee discussed having $2,000 come from the recreation budget to hire a part-time employee to help clean up the Lake Clementia beach area for the summer months. So that would be my recommendation to the board, to approve hiring a part-time employee to clean up Lake Clementia, not to exceed $2,000.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Thank you. Any further discussion? Are we, the 2,000 is, this isn't someone paying benefits for or anything like that. This is just,
No, it'd just be the hourly rate and then the employee's burden. Yeah.
okay.
I think the thought with the committee was this would be an opportunity for a community member, summer job for a community member potentially to do.
Sure. Great. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of $2,000 for hiring someone for Lake Clementia Beach cleanup, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
So the next item up for the board action is the Recreation Committee, along with multiple other community organizations, is going to be hosting a National Night Out event on August 6th. This event is to support law enforcement in our community. We have attendance from multiple people in the community, as well as other important designees in the Sacramento area. Sheriff's Department, CHP, I believe, is committed as well, and whatnot are planning on attending. So we were looking for approval from the Board of Directors for $2,000 from the recreation budget for to put towards the National Night Out event.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
Can you give us some ideas of what some of the money, what some ideas you're thinking about for spending that money?
Yeah, so, so we have multiple organizations who are volunteering. So Kiwanis and Optimus, I believe, are going to be doing the food for the event, so we'll have those donations. What we're looking at spending the funds on would be, let's give all our surprises away, but.
Oh, okay, you're just saying some
Yeah,
creative,
so-
creative events or something
Yeah,
like
so
that?
for some decorations for the event, we're gonna have acknowledgement of law enforcement at the event in some manner. We're planning on having games available for community members there, and some other things that would participate, some memorabilia to go along with the event and whatnot.
Yeah, that was my question too, Cheryl. I think this is great that we're participating. It's good to know what we're spending.
Yeah, it's a fun collaboration amongst multiple groups.
I mean, I was just, the question came up at my finance meeting, I said, I'm sure there's some surprises, but I'll let, sure. Okay, I was right, all right.
Further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of $2,000 to